friends of Corazon. I'm Mark Osborne. I'm the director of The Little Prince, and this is Mr. Foxdoll, and we are incredibly excited that El Principito is coming to theaters here on November 13th, and we hope you'll go see it in the cinemas. You can see El Principito, you can see The Little Prince, or you can even see Le Petit Prince. And how lucky are you that you have 3 versions? So go see it 3 times. Thank you so much. There's a great opportunity within this story to portray the Little Prince in a way that I don't think audiences will expect.
It's difficult to illustrate on film the poetry of the book.
Kind of ironic to say, you know, anything essential is invisible to the eye, and yet we're trying to make a movie about that idea.
S'il vous plaît, dessine-moi un mouton.
What if the aviator never found anybody to share the story with?
Il était une fois un petit prince qui habitait une planète à peine plus grande que lui.
So the biggest challenge is really finding a story that will utilize the book and create sort of a structure so that the book can be at the heart of a larger story. And that's where I'm really excited to have this little girl. She's going to be this great way for us to see the book through her eyes. So in some ways it gives us a lot of freedom with the material to tell this larger story.
Mark had an idea to illustrate the book in stop motion and wrap that section with the CG part of the film, this different medium representing the little girl's imagination, and it's incredible.
We're really trying to create a world that feels like a very realistic storybook. And CG is really a fantastic tool to do that because we can actually create a very sort of simplified and stylized world, but use cues that are very sophisticated to help us kind of ease into that storytelling and help us understand and believe the emotional connections between these characters.
The big thing is being able to see the clear kind of divisions between the different worlds, the warmth of the aviator and the little prince's world, and then the real world, strict, more formal, and the grown-up world being an extreme version of that.
Cette maison-là a rendu cette maison-ci abordable, afin que ton avenir devienne possible.
The little girl is interesting in that she begins as a very sort of dour, serious character and finds the child in herself. So I knew my design had to be able to carry that range of emotion. She had to be able to transform from the beginning of the film, from basically grow from an adult to a child by the end of it. The interesting thing about the aviator is that unlike the little girl, the aviator is a child in an old man's body.
He's a very conscientious character, he's caring, he's a very, very special character that wants to make connections, but in this world he's living in, he can't.
Salut les amis!
All these characters are very iconic in the way they're presented. It's also a way for us to create this fairy tale, this storybook universe that should feel very unique and should feel like it's in keeping with the book. Kind of triggers in your brain when you look at stop motion. It makes you believe like it's a fantasy. It's like your toys are moving. That's why stop motion becomes the perfect medium to translate the passages of the book.
We wanted to work with paper because the stop motion part of the story is all about the book. And we find that connection, that making the whole thing come alive in a storybook way.
Exupery's illustrations are so simple and naive that It was really important to take those bits and interpret them in sculpturally in a way that still felt like illustrations.
It's interesting because we go from a sequence that's entirely made up of paper at the beginning, and then it becomes more dimensional, but we still keep a lot of the paper feeling. We're going through a lot of trouble to sculpt the heads out of paper clay, which is very difficult to deal with, but it allows Alex and his team to lay down like a watercolor look on the faces.
The book illustrations were done in watercolor, so I wanted to sort of find those characters through watercolor as well.
On ne voit bien qu'avec le cœur.
I didn't want to make anything too clean. My approach to sculpting these guys has always been like an imperfection and a roughness, natural handmade feels.
So we're using watercolor, dyes, gouache, and all these colors that in those types of paint that we can get really vibrant colors to show emotion and climate, a very hot desert in a scene.
We're not just surfacing every sand dune with a sand look. We're folding paper, and so how do you get that to still feel like you're in a hot desert?
Stop motion is all about movement. It's a specific kind of animation that creates a specific kind of illusion of movement, and when you're building armatures for a stop motion puppet, at a very basic level, it's our job to make the animator's job as easy as possible.
Moi aussi aujourd'hui je rentre chez moi.
Generally, we can do a second a day, 2 seconds. It really depends on the shot and the complexity. And if the puppet and if your rigs are if everything is working together.
I've never worked with a puppet before that that was covered in paper. That posed a challenge because it's not as flexible as something like foam latex or silicone.
Stop motion really evokes those feelings of childhood, and so it's always been a great technique because it really taps into those sort of earlier sort of feelings of being a child.